Good evening to all of you, or to all the participants, and our speaker for today, our distinguished speaker, Jyotin Mehta. I thank him wholeheartedly for joining us and uh, giving his thoughts to this group, sharing his thoughts with this group. Uh, Before I introduce Jyotin, uh, just let me step back and talk about Sama and today's program. I think this is the 15th webinar in the series Analytics Wednesday. We started this 4 months back. It has been going really great with a lot of sharing. All these episodes of webinars with all the distinguished speakers are available on YouTube. So Sama YouTube channel. If you look up, you can find all the videos which are available for public viewing. In fact, if somebody goes through those episodes, those webinars which are there on the YouTube, that itself is like a management program in analytics, for a person who wants to learn about analytics with such a lot of experience from distinguished speakers. Sama Audit Systems and Software Private Limited has been at the forefront of bringing technology for auditors for the last 20 years. IDEA is, of course, the flagship product solution, but other than that, there are a number of other solutions which are not so well known, but well entrenched in the Indian market and have number of installations across the country. One is ELISA, which is a client server continuous control monitoring for finance, for compliance, for audit, continuous control monitoring or continuous control auditing from London. ELISA is from London. You have Smart Exporter from Germany, which is a ETL for SAP. So you can take in data from SAP quite easily with Smart Exporter. You have got Caseware working papers for statutory auditors, which is the external audit firms in the country. So that's again the number one product around the world for statutory audit. So there are a number of solutions being offered by Sama. And other than that, we have the e-learning modules which are available. So you have the e-learning modules which are centered around IDEA. So you have IDEA 101, IDEA 102, fraud analytics. They are centered around IDEA. So anybody wants to learn analytics, they can just pick up one of the modules online and start learning analytics in terms of case studies, various scenarios, and so on. I will now formally introduce the speaker, and I would like to point out that today's episode, like all the other webinar episodes, is supported by the Trade Commissioner Service, Government of Canada. Earlier, we used to have physical programs, hosted within the Canadian Embassy, Canadian High Commission in Delhi. Because of the online prevalence of online facility now, and because of the current situation, I think we are doing more of online programs, but the Trade Commissioner Service continues to support us. So that's a great thing for our organization per se, and for the solutions that we offer to the customer. I would now like to formally introduce Jyotin. Jyotin is a great friend. He's really high up there because he's an independent director, chairman, board member of a number of companies, and we are really fortunate that he's agreed to speak to us today. He's been a rank holder, third rank in chartered accountancy. He's a company secretary and a management accountant, a versatile finance and GRC professional with excellent academic credentials. He has held leadership positions in Tata, ICICI, Shell Group of companies, all companies with a marquee brands in the world. Has rich experience of 40 plus years in areas of corporate finance, internal audit, corporate governance, risk and controls, company law, legal and regulatory compliance, and customer service. More importantly, today, he's an independent director and chairman, member on boards of companies in BFSI and manufacturing companies. He's also a chairman, member of multiple on number of board committees, including audit committee, remuneration committee, nomination and remuneration committee, risk management, CSR committee, and of course, stakeholders relations committee. He's a visiting faculty at leading management schools in India. So you have the SP Jain Management Institute of Management Research, Wellington Institute of Management, speaks at conferences and seminars, mentor and coach, and very important, he's passionate about development of young professionals. So we are again, I'm repeating, we are very fortunate that he's agreed to speak to all of us. So Jyotin, over to you for today's session on technology for internal auditors, because usually the big question for every internal auditor is how do you get buy-in from the top management to start using analytics? So maybe that would be one question which you will also answer in today's deliberation. Over to you, Jyotin, please.
Thank you very much, Deepji, for your kind words. I think you would have really raised the expectations of the audience, and I will try my best to convey my views. As you rightly said, I have had the fortune of being in the boardroom and also being in the hot seat of a CFO, being in the hot seat of an internal auditor. So, in many ways, I have seen it from all sides, and I've seen it evolve over the years. So, good evening, everyone, and I hope you will find this session useful and interesting. And I'll be free to take any questions as we go along, or even at the end of the session, whichever way the organizers would like to have it. But let me start off with what is the view of the audit committee in the boardroom. How is the audit committee feeling about what's happening outside the boardroom, and what is the type of support that they are seeking from various people, including, most importantly, the internal audit team. What has changed? I think pandemic is a topic which everyone has been talking about all the time. So I won't talk of pandemic, but let me talk of the other changes which have impacted business in a very big way. And consequently, once business gets impacted, the processes, the controls, and therefore the concerns around the controls, the need for assurance around the controls, everything undergoes a change. More importantly, I think what's happening is we are seeing disruption everywhere. So, for example, today, and I've been talking about it now in the boardroom when I attend meetings in a bank or in a NBFC, that whatever the regulator may say, digital currency has already appeared on the horizon, cryptocurrency, or whatever we call it. We can't wish these things away. And the same is happening in a very sweeping way about business models. I still remember the age-old example we used to give when I was in the mid-90s and I was working for Shell. We used to talk about pagers being a perquisite for only selected people who needed to be contacted all the time. And then came the mobile phones, and within just 2 or 3 years, I think mobile phones virtually ruled the world. And today we are talking of smartphones. Pagers are forgotten. I mean, if I may mention pagers to the new generation, they may wonder what I am talking about. So that was a type of disruption which was very unique, and we felt it was something very significant. But if you look around today, I think disruption is happening everywhere. And we have enough examples, the most cliche ones appearing about people who run hotel business without owning a property, people who run taxi business without owning vehicles, and so on. I think it's all about technology, and I think the difference really comes from technology. So can the internal audit function remain aloof from technology? I think that would be a joke, because I think all of you are trying hard to get yourself adapt and acquire the knowledge that is required to use technology in internal audit. What has been worrying the audit committees of late? You see, first thing is, I mentioned already that when business models change, when business models get disrupted, the established processes no longer work. And you need to quickly change your processes and make them secure as well as easy for the customer. Customer has really become the king. I mean, you don't give ease to the customer to do business with you, and you are not there in the top 5. I've seen old classic companies, how much they suffered when we had the lockdown and they could not do physical business, and now everyone is doing online business. I think the last 18 months have really promoted technology in almost every aspect of our life. Banks which were insistent on getting documents have found out ways. Even insurance companies, lodging claims online. You are able to get your money in the bank account without any difficulty. Imagine the visits that insurance companies required you to go and lodge claims. You have to visit the office, give the papers, give copies of your documents, and so on. All that is now forgotten. And I'm sure these changes are here to stay and here to become even more deeper. And therefore, it becomes very, very important for the audit committee to get that assurance on controls, not on something which is very static. We talk of the risk control matrices, we talk of the SOPs, etc. All these documents obviously are required in a governance framework, but all these documents now require to be very dynamic as well. And therefore, I think the role that the internal auditor has to play in making sure that he or she is still able to give the required assurance to the audit committee in the change circumstances. I think that becomes important. I remember when I had started my career early, people used to talk of sampling, and there used to be a big lecture that we used to get on how you have to define your sampling, what type of sampling tables you use, how you have to be very clear in terms of sharing with the audit committee or sharing. That time there was no audit committee, there was the board, and we had to share with the management and the board that we had to sort of give a sort of disclaimer that I have seen only 10% of the samples, or maybe 5% of the high value items. And based on that, I'm giving my assurance. Today, if I sit in the audit committee, I cannot accept that at all. I mean, I expect the internal auditor, and for that matter, even the statutory auditor, to tell me across the universe of whatever data that they have seen, how the control environment is working, and whether it's, are there outliers, what are these, why are they happening. Now, obviously, when it comes to statutory auditors, despite the fact what has happened in the last 3-4 years, you have a lot of things that protect them. They are there only for maybe 15 days, 20 days in a quarter, and maybe a month and a half at the end of the year. And therefore, they are still allowed to put on those 3 or 4 slides with every presentation in terms of what is their responsibility and what is the responsibility of the management, etc. But as internal auditors, I don't think neither the management nor the audit committee is going to feel comfortable if you start giving those disclaimers. So the very first need, and I've been talking this with Deepji over the years now, that the first need that is now coming up is audit committee is no longer happy with sampling. Audit committee wants that assurance that the entire population, the entire universe of data is kosher. So how are you going to do that? I mean, because are you going to ask for more people? Even if you ask for more people and you get it, which is very unlikely, it is impossible for you to manage so many people to get that assurance. And therefore, you have no choice. It is actually almost compulsory for you now to get, completely embrace data analytics as the first step in making your internal audit meet the requirements of today and what's going to be in the future. So, that is one of the first thing. Now, the other thing is, as audit committee, we always have been insisting on looking at only the significant observations. So on one hand, we may possibly be giving the internal audit maybe a half an hour slot or an hour slot, or maybe one meeting in a year to tell us all about what they do in detail. But when it comes to approval of plans and looking at the significant observations, we have limited time. And I think that's the problem at the board. That's a problem everywhere. I don't think it's only board. It's a management. It's a business. I'm sure all of us, I've been an internal auditor myself, and I know that the first casualty when it comes to a time crunch is internal audit. I have had requests coming from auditors saying we don't have time. We have to do business. I have requests coming in from the CFO saying that, can you crunch the meeting to just 15 minutes and tell me only the big ticket items which I need to look at before the audit committee meets. And then, of course, the audit committee itself. And I'm equally guilty as an audit committee chair when I tell the internal auditor that please highlight only the significant observations. And yet, when the internal audit session concludes at the audit committee meeting, I still look at the internal auditor and ask him or her, is everything okay? And that word everything comes as very, very important. And how are you going to answer that question with a hand on heart? So I think technology and in particular data analytics, you also have computer based systems. You have to have your own processes done in a way where you have complete control not only on the audit execution but on what is on plan, what are the outliers, what are the pending observations which need action. Because for whatever reason, I think it is the chief internal auditor who is looked at for all when it comes for by all when it comes to assurance, whether it is the MD, whether it is the audit committee chair, and once in a way you may get, maybe once in a year you may get to even see the board, and everyone has the same concern. And that concern is not misplaced, because in the last 5 years or maybe even more, we have had instances happening where reputed firms have run into problem when doing internal audits for companies which were otherwise considered marquee companies. I mean, I wouldn't like to name them, but there have been companies where internal controls have either failed, governance has failed. And when it comes to that, we know the case of 2008 when one company failed. The statutory auditors, the internal auditors, all of them, and the CFO, all were put into deep trouble. So I think we cannot let it happen. And at the same time, we have the challenge. We don't. In fact, I was talking about getting more people. I don't know how many of you can actually get even your budgeted strength in an internal audit team today, because we really don't get good audit professionals. It is not something, even in my days, I remember when we used to qualify as a chartered accountant, my first reaction would be, I will take up a finance job. Even accounting seemed to be not very good. And then when it came to internal audit, it was the last choice. Fortunately, things have changed because internal audit has become a little more exotic, thanks to the developments outside, thanks to some regulators becoming very particular about how internal audit should be, and thanks to technology making it possible for internal auditors to do things which otherwise seem to be so mundane, doing it in a more interesting way, presenting it in a more interesting way. So what I feel as an audit committee chair or audit committee member, and for that matter, a GRC professional, I think there is a big opportunity for the internal auditors to prove their mettle. And the partners for this will be two. One, the right talent, and second will be the right investments in technology. And then when you come to technology in particular, I would first talk, the first step which one can take is the automation of your processes and introducing your team to data analytics. And that brings me to the other point which I've been advocating with all the internal auditors I have been interacting with, that it is time that you look at how you staff your team. You need to staff your team with younger professionals who are more adept in embracing technology, in learning new things and bringing in more perspectives. In our early days, when we had, computers that just made the beginning, I'm talking about the personal computers. And we had what was the predecessor of Excel, which was known as Lotus 123. And when we got introduced to that magical worksheet, which could do wonders in terms of calculations and make things easy, the first thing we were taught was to do some macros in those worksheets. I think the same happens in Excel today as well. But, seeing something happen at a press of a button gave us so much of joy. And for the senior professionals around us, they used to look at that execution with awe. I think those were the times when we could do simple things and get appreciated. Today, life has become much more challenging because technology has almost embraced every part of our life. You start from getting your daily provisions everywhere. I mean, do your banking, you don't go to a branch, everything is done online. And when you are living in an economic situation like that, I think the internal auditors will have to be looking at a talent which is significantly different from what we were looking at for the last maybe 10 years. You will need people who can take technology. You will need specifically data scientists in your team as well. I mean, get one if you can convince the management. And I think the first is, for getting the management convinced, you need to have the conviction. And I can tell you that having a data scientist in your team will make wonders. Make sure that if you have an outsourced partner also, you get them convinced that without data analytics, there can be no internal audit, because you cannot have a dialogue on the basis of sampling check in these days. People want to know everything. You need to track the outliers, and particularly tools like I mean, the first tool I saw in data analytics was IDEA. And I was really surprised at the power that it could bring in. And whilst we all have used Excel worksheets, I think specialized tools have their own positives, which can make life a lot easier. Now, talking of, again, going back to the audit committee requirements, the top on the agenda, everyone talks in the boardroom, is digitization. Then people are talking about 100% assurance, dynamic risk monitoring and reporting and assessment. And what we all, we use these terms very liberally, but I think we need to go a little bit deeper into it. Agile auditing. And for all these things, the only thread that can put it together is technology. So, my own assessment today is, how far are we in this journey of technology in the field of internal audit? And based on my interactions in the profession, I can tell you we may be possibly anywhere between 30 to 40% there. What is yet to be done? I think putting data analytics to deployment fully, and making sure that you go much beyond that. You need to have, for example, when you talk of automated controls, the governance risk modules which we have in most of the ERPs like SAP. Again, the same thing happens there. I think when we attempt putting automated controls, I think the best that companies achieve is somewhere between 70 to 80%. So there is room to do a lot more. Again, when we talk of data analytics, I think one of the things I learned in one of my last jobs was that get everyone on board on data analytics, get the finance team on, get the business guys on, because doing analysis on data is, so I don't know, it brings out so much of information that we will otherwise miss. And the pace at which we are expected to work, be it in finance team or be it in audit team, I think tools of technology are the ones who are going to make us be in the race. The race is there. We all run, but we cannot afford to talk of the treadmill now. We have to run the race, and it's just not a marathon. You have to run possibly a marathon using the technology that with technology you can make it look like a sprint as well. But I think we need to have auditing, agile auditing. We need to have automation. We need to do also a lot of audit processes through artificial intelligence. And I think there is a plethora of tools available now. We have a variety, but more importantly, to do all this, there are three things. First is the right people to assess and deploy them, the right people to understand the importance of these tools and allocate resources to you. And of course, the final part is, how do we execute? Having everything on my laptop is not good enough if I don't use it. And I think most of us, when it comes to smartphones, we are very quick to download applications, but we are not that good. And I think most of the phones today even tell you that some apps you have not used for a long time. Unfortunately, technology tools, if they could talk, I think many would have the same complaint, that you invest so much in a automated workflow process, you invest so much in data analytics, and finally your team is doing nothing about it, or maybe using it just because it is mandated by the chief internal auditor. I need to have one slide on data analytics. I need to do it. So I think we need to get ourselves reoriented in a way where we take it as a given. We cannot do an internal audit without having data analytics to start off. We cannot do internal audit 100% mundane and manually. We have to have automated workflows. We have to have automated controls, and we have to push. And when I say push, I would rather use the word collaboration, because I think one area where internal auditors do not do enough is in terms of collaboration. No, and I don't blame internal auditors alone, because I think there is a management which has to be the catalyst for this. But we have to see a greater collaboration between business and internal audit to make all these wonders of technology really bring in the benefits for the company, for the board, and finally getting ingrained in our entire strategic journey as we grow and as we scale up. Now, the point here is that this collaboration is often overlooked, partly because we run into some theoretical questions about, as an internal auditor, can I assess something? And then tomorrow, do I do the audit of the same thing? I think these are good academic debates, but please go beyond that, because the best things I have seen happen both in the company and in the internal audit team is where there is collaboration between IT, between business, between the CFO team and the internal audit team. And where you have matured individuals leading these teams, you also have one extra benefit of being able to rotate people around, giving them career opportunities, making work interesting, be it in any of these teams. So, because we need technology, we need people who are IT professionals or IT savvy. Because we need data analytics, we need data scientists. Because we also have to look at business, we need the business guys who have the knowledge. So, the underlying part is make your internal audit so interesting and collaborate in such a way that you are able to get the best out of technology and people, because you will deploy technology to the fullest. If you have, for example, a data analytics module with you, and if you are able to, all the teams are able to use it, you get the best out of that investment. And likewise, if you have the good people who are running these technology modules, who are familiar with the business, then you have good resources developing, and you have something challenging to offer to your team as well. So to me, actually, deployment of technology is perhaps a binding force in a way, because it also makes you get a better, more contemporary outlook on your internal audit team. You are able to do better connect with the audit committee and the board. You are obviously of great value to the management. And then, of course, as I said, with collaboration coming in, you are able to do your own job a lot easily. And I think overall, the company gains, the business gains, and the people develop. And obviously, then we talk of the cutting edge of technology very often, but I think that applies to every part of business, and it should not be only restricted to the main business model. It should be there in the support functions. So, I cannot sort of talk less about this. I just keep on emphasizing. However I may convey, I think we have to make sure that we don't miss this bus of making sure that we have technology deployed at all possible parts in our entire functioning. I think as we move up, and I've seen this happen, once you get into data analytics, then you realize the power. You are able to do a lot more things. Your entire audit plan changes. You look at things also a lot differently. Then this helps you to also bring in the preventive alerts, which business is most happy with, organization is most happy with. And then, of course, you are able to graduate further and do things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, because you can easily get these things incorporated in a program or in a workflow, and you will find the quality improving and the assurance level or the control environment also improving without getting that tag of being a disruptor of business. So let the disruption happen in the business model, but let IA not be blamed for being a disruptor. IA should be seen as a facilitator and a collaborator at all times. And that can be best done by deploying technology. And one thing we have to remember, that technology can be only driven by the right people with an open mind, people who are willing to experiment, people who are willing to break away. I keep on referring to that famous phrase, which is there in most of the prospectus of mutual funds, that the past performance is no indication of what's going to happen in future. And I think nothing more applies in terms of technology and in terms of the control environment, because today on the agenda are things like risks which are happening everywhere, frauds that seem to be coming to haunt even corporates which have established systems. And then you are constantly worried about hacking, cybersecurity, and all this put together is giving enough sleepless nights to the board. Leave the business aside. So here is what we look for. We look for an internal auditor coming equipped with all that we would like to ask in terms of the controls, and not giving any sort of disclaimer saying that I have looked at only some part of it. I will do this audit once in 3 years. No, we cannot accept that. And the only way you can then meet those expectations and be, as they use that cliche term, future ready, I think that can only be done if you embrace wholeheartedly the entire technology journey, starting with data analytics and starting with process automation, starting with automated control environment. So I think I may now, this topic is so passionate to me that I might possibly end up repeating something. So I would like to pause here and I would like to take some questions, and
Sure.
I'll be happy to share whatever I can.
Sure. Jyotin, I think there's a question and there's some comment also. So there's a question. I'll take the question first. Vijay Lakshmi is asking you, does the internal auditor shift to predictive analytics in the near future? Your views, please.
Well, I think it's a very, very relevant question because uh, I can only say that whenever we see lapses in control and whenever we see frauds happening, for example, we do look at the internal auditor to say, can you not have processes which will help us to prevent these things from happening? And therefore, I think predictive analytics becomes very important, because once you deploy that, I think the chances of spotting the weak points or the red spots in the system will be much more. I mean, that agile auditing will come into play, according to me.
Sure. I think there's no other questions, but I think there is a comment in the chat box by S. Bhovania. Yes, people think data analytics is a tick in the box and we need to inculcate data analytics in internal audit and statutory audit. We keep pushing our engagement teams to use data analytics. So that's a comment by him. When we are talking about predictive analytics, not exactly predictive, Jyotin, but I'll take a minute to share with you. We have this, I've seen this company up north, which is an engineering company, sharing with all the participants. And few years back, 8 to 10 years back, they have 7 or 8 processes, through which a piece passes, through which a component passes. And each item is a tailor-made item, and there are lakhs of pieces in the plant. And it's a very complex process, and they are into manual systems. They graduated to ERP system. They started tracking each piece across sections in production, and then they went on. Next item was, they looked at which machine performs better for which type of metallurgy of items, and they made a plan for that. And using different solutions, now when they start off, they actually lay out a path for the piece, so that it is made at the least cost. Now that's very unique. I've not seen that, because I've seen few other engineering companies in the same arena, and this is a unique company. Even companies abroad don't do it. So they are benefited a lot in terms of cost. So that is why they are highly profit-making company.
Deepji, if I may add, I think one of the areas which will possibly help companies across is logistics. If you are able to use predictive analytics and logistics, imagine the cost savings and the optimization that you can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one more question. How audit committee should respond to non-response of business for audit findings? This is a favorite question.
I know, Deepji. I think I will have to take a couple of minutes on this.
Please.
Guys, I mean, all in the audience I'm addressing, and I know that it is frustrating because, you see, when we do an audit, and I'm now talking for a minute as an internal auditor, when we complete an internal audit, we realize the hardships that we go through, the meticulous planning that we have done, the amount of effort that we have put in. Somewhere along the line, we also get very, very passionate about our observations, and we would like to, we feel proud about our observations. Now, what happens is, when it comes to audit committee or when it comes to management level at a senior level, it is possible that some of these, when you put in a total sort of environment, some of these may not appear to be as significant as we feel when we do the internal audit. Also, there are times when we don't do our homework well as an internal auditor, because we either our observation may be incomplete or may not be clear enough, and therefore, in fact, this morning I was having an audit committee where someone had said that whatever required will be done, and I said that's not a response at all. And what happens is, because our observations are not very specific, not engaging enough, business also tends to take it, or oddities. Not, let me not put business, because it can happen to any oddity. I have seen that happen, that a frivolous response comes in just to get a closure of an audit observation. Now, I'm not saying for a while, I don't want to take away the credit from the internal audit team, but all I say is it's a collaborative process. Make your audit reports, as I said, high impact reporting will never go unnoticed. And high impact reporting will bring in benefits which everyone will appreciate. Now, obviously, there will be some auditees who will keep on promising you about action and not taking anything or taking things lightly. I think it is up to the head of the internal audit to make sure that there is an engagement with the CEO of the company as well as with the audit committee chair. And I insist this wherever I am on the board or I chair the audit committee, I insist for at least 2 to 3 sessions in a year with the chief internal auditor and the CFO to understand their issues. So that's when you have to work out a plan. You have to work out a good cop, bad cop theory, whatever you want. There are enough jargons available. All I'm saying is you have to buy in that support from the management, and there is some role for you all to play. As I said, use technology, make your report high impact. I think very few will be able to ignore that. So to some extent, I think some ownership lies with us as internal auditors. Some ownership lies with people like me who are on the audit committee chair. And I think both have to engage in a partnership to make sure, because at the end of the day, I think CIA has a very important role to play in the organization. And no one can take that away. It's up to the CIA to leverage it to the maximum, get the right visibility, and make sure that the time which you get, the audience which you get with the CEO or an audit committee is optimized in terms of getting attention.
Okay.
Sorry, Deepji, I think I made it too long. But
it was very right, because this is a frequently asked question, because as you rightly said, the internal auditors feel very passionate about the work that they do. So, there's a question from my side to you. Number of times when at teams, when we go and meet chief internal auditors, and the chief internal auditor says that, or I'll have to take permission from my audit committee to buy any technology, buy data analytics. Sometimes, few times it has happened in the last 5 years, number of times, that the audit committee members would like to see the technology themselves. They would like to say, show us the technology. You would like to see, what the internal auditors want to invest in. So, what are your views on this subject?
Yeah, Deepji, I think this is the age of empowerment, really. And I mean, I don't mind. This is an open audience, and I don't mind expressing my views in a very clear way. Number one is, I think, expecting all audit committee members to come on board and understand and debate on whether it's a right technology or not. I think we are not buying a ERP. We are buying something which is data analytics. So I think really it need not even go in terms of, or it need not go for an approval to an audit committee, according to me. But how it has to be sold is essentially the buying from the chief internal auditor, understanding the power of what it can deliver. And then instead of, explaining the technology, I think one can explain the before and after type of thing, that if I were to do something without help of technology, this is how it will look. With the help of technology, this is how it will look. And then you will be able to bring in the type of, the quality of observations, the coverage that we bring in. And then you talk of the money, because honestly, I don't think these packages are so expensive. I think the issue lies with two things. One is people are hesitant because they are even not sure whether they will be able to deploy it enough. Very often, as I mentioned, that something is bought and it's forgotten. That's one of the commonest things I have seen. The second part is that the source data may not be amenable to so much of analytics and therefore needs a lot of cleaning up, because in most of the organizations, when systems transition happens, it happens in a rush, and sometimes the quality of data or the type of controls or the way the processes are handled or information is processed, there are some areas for improvement. And sometimes the full benefit of a package of data analytics may not come out because the source data may not be good enough. But I think these are glitches. When it comes to a package, I think one has to really appreciate and understand. And that's why I said that in the internal audit team, there should be at least 2 or 3 evangelists for data analytics and who understand. And then, of course, I think convincing the audit committee, I wouldn't go and ask them for a capital investment proposal. I would just say that these are the 2 types of reports I can produce, one using a package, one without a package. And this is what the difference it can make.
Absolutely. So I think just one comment. First of all, we are thankful again because Nandita is attending this session and she's saying very forward-looking and practical insights. So that's
oh, that's very. I mean,
very nice of her.
Really feel nice.
Yeah.
But Deepji, before you close, I wanted to make one sort of closing remark.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to sort of compare internal audit maybe 5 to 7 years back with internal audit today and how it's going to be in the years to come. Right. From intuition and sampling, we are now moving to analytics and 100% coverage. Okay. From established SOPs and processes which used to remain stagnant for maybe 2 years, 3 years, and review once in a year, 3 years was okay. We are now moving to a dynamic situation where every day there is some change. Every day a business model gets disrupted, a process needs doing up again, and someone has to quickly look at the controls because otherwise things can go haywire. Then we are also looking at lot of talk around digitization and ease of doing business, and the customer has tested blood in terms of ease of doing business and ease of doing transactions. So everything is now expected to be online, and people, so it's going to happen more and more, and therefore internal audit cannot but has to keep pace with it and maybe be a couple of steps ahead in terms of suggesting what type of controls can come in. And I think the issues that we are going to soon face is really the scarcity of the right talent to man or to be a part of the internal audit team, because as I said, the demands are too many. And the expectations, not only from the audit committee, from all stakeholders, be it management, be it regulators, even statutory auditors will keep on relying on internal audit, though they may not like to admit it openly, but they will. And therefore, I think the internal auditor, in my view, is, for me as an audit committee chair, honestly, I give a lot more importance to the internal auditor than I give to anyone else. Because here is a person who can have insights and have the insights the way audit committee would like. So I thought I should just give my closing comments before we conclude.
Yeah, there are 2 more questions, Jyotin.
Yeah.
There's one from Jeffrey, which talks about, hello, sir, one small doubt. How well does the IDEA software help you or will help us while doing internal auditing?
Okay, now here is a confession. I think I have personally not used IDEA software, though I have always recommended it because I have seen the power, how it has impacted internal audit. So, but I can just tell you one thing. I think your real challenge will be to make it a habit for all your internal audit teams not to start any field work unless and until they have used data analytics on the raw data that has come to them. And people will have to be creative in terms of trying to find out where they will deploy analytics in that whole universe of data that is there in front of them. And I think that's where the leadership in internal audit will have to guide them, but make it mandatory. I mean, there can be no internal audit report without analytics having performed at the beginning and analytics having been performed before the closing meeting happens.
Absolutely. And I think there's one more question on what are the ways, strategies that audit committee may take to support to manage the poor vendor involvement in technology products implementation?
I actually am not in agreement with that. You see, basically, it is not the role of the audit committee to manage the vendor. I think the audit committee can only to deal with the internal auditor. It is the, I mean, internal auditor or whoever is dealing on technology with the help of the IT person or IT head has to manage the vendor. I mean, I don't think audit committee has a role in managing the vendor. Definitely not.
I think it's absolutely right, Jyotin, what you said, because audit committee cannot go to see how a vendor or how a chief internal auditor or
No,
a
because
CEO
as
for
an
finance department.
analogy,
Absolutely.
as an analogy, Deepji,
Yeah.
then I will have to look at all the vendors who provide critical functions
No,
for an
no.
organization, be it logistics provider,
No,
be
no,
it
no, 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 no,
raw
no, no, no,
material.
no, Jyotin, it's out of question. I think it's for the person who is taking the service to decide whether they need continuous support or not, whether they need AMC or not, whether they need
Absolutely.
to employ outsourced staff or they want to do it with their own staff or they want to take the services of an external data scientist or a data analyst and so on. So, it's how you drop the contract, how you make a roadmap or blueprint to implement data analytics, and how you what are the objectives you want to take up in the first year, and how do you want to scale it up, and how do you want a team to be trained, and so on. So it's like a
Deepji,
it's a project plan.
honestly, yeah, Deepji, sorry if I'm interrupting, but honestly,
Yeah.
this is where I mentioned as one of the areas where the chief internal auditor or head of internal auditor needs to work on. You know, how to leverage and get engagement of the audit committee to resolve issues. But
Absolutely.
if I miss that opportunity and I use them to talk to my vendor, then I'm missing something very big. But I should be
Absolutely.
actually using the audit committee to put their stamp on what I'm doing as in the right direction to, you know, persuade the business and the management to make sure that I am a stakeholder. I attend the important meetings that happen in the organization. I think that's where I need to seek audit committee support. I would not waste it on trying to get a vendor deliver something which I wanted to get.
Absolutely. There's a question from Vijay Lakshmi. Analytics should be coupled with dashboards for maximum impact. Insights from analytics has to be well presented. Views, please.
Again, this is something which I agree with, because very often, you know, someone mentioned that how do you get the engagement of senior management as well as audit committee. I think to some extent, the people who sit in the boardroom and the people who sit in the top positions may not have the same time and may not get into so much of detailing which we would get in as internal auditors. And therefore, having a dashboard and having a very impactful presentation on what we want to convey, what is the story that we want to tell about the control environment and the processes, it's very important. So I would say if data analytics is my core operations, I think my marketing is the dashboard.
Agreed. And just to add to what Jyotin's perspective is from the audit committee, since I'm biased, you know, I'm representing Sama today. So I'm biased. I would say I'm talking about IDEA. So IDEA has built-in capabilities for dashboarding. At the same time, IDEA has external connectivity with other dashboarding tools in the market. So what happens is that whatever you work within a data analytics tool, today you can actually transfer it online and at the same time, you know, simultaneously to ensure that excellent dashboarding is possible. Now, which will really make an impact, because an internal auditor's job is to make the best of the presentation. And the presentation is going to show, communication is going to show what has been achieved or what has been accomplished by the internal auditor. So everything boils down to that. So
many chief internal auditors have not managed to get the full impact because of either articulation, communication, or presentation. You know, you have to get that right. And I'm not suggesting that you should be an MBA, but you certainly need to work on these three aspects if you want to get engagement with any external stakeholder, frankly.
There's a comment by Pallav Jain. I fully agree with Mr. Mehta. Using data analytic upfront before fieldwork saves huge time, and with full assurance. I've been using IDEA for more than 10 years now. So I think that's a comment. Yeah, Jyotin, just to add to what you have said, you know, we have a separately a consulting firm where we do a lot of internal practice. And what has changed over the years in the last 10 years is that earlier our teams used to go in the field, sit down and start taking in data or manual records or looking at the ERP and start doing auditing. What has happened now is, and especially in the last 1.5 years with the pandemic, and before that also, what has happened is, what has changed is that our teams call for data or use a VPN to get data, access to data, and call for data from, you know, not maybe from banks, but from private sector organizations. And they collect all the data, they run all the tests, and when they go in the field, their turnaround time is very fast. They have to stay less at an outstation location or a factory because they have already done the analytics, they have already looked at the data, they have already looked at patterns. So they're just talking to people and analyzing in the field. So, the cycle time has gone down. And of course, the raw material for the internal audit is the firm, are the people.
We start this very early in life. You read your books well, then you appear in the exam and it's a cakewalk. You read at the board level, we read our agenda papers well and do our homework. When it comes to the boardroom, we just end up asking the right questions. And I think that applies to everyone, and more so in internal audit, because that's where the burden of looking through a lot of data, etc., has always been a major issue, which impacts the audit execution, the audit schedule, and everything. So I think I cannot agree with you more. We need to change the ways we work if we are to make our audit or continue to remain relevant as internal auditors in today's world.
I agree with you 100%. First is being relevant, having the satisfaction of delivering the best. But of course, it's also, if you look at an outsourced firm on the commercial aspect, or even as an internal department with less people, as you rightly said at the beginning, the staffing is a problem because you don't want to give more staff. You don't want to give staff more than the budget, or maybe the budgetary sanction strength is also not fully given to people, or you don't find the right people. So doing more with less always helps.
Absolutely.
So I think that's there. There's a comment from Michael. He says, time well invested with Mehta, sir. This is quite adequate. A failure to be flexible when it comes to adoption of this technology will lead to failed audits. We really need to embrace this. So I think this was just a comment.
I'm feeling good because it seems that my message has at least reached some of the people well. I'm very happy to see that. Thank you.
Great. So I think I don't see any other questions, please. I think we have some 7-8 minutes. If you have questions, then I think we have the opportunity of having Jotin with us, a board member with us. He can, with years of experience. So, we can pick his brains, or if there are no other questions, then we can call it a close. And Jotin, just for your information, there are some foreign friends here. I know Kagan is there from Turkey. Dan is there from Israel. So a lot of foreign friends have joined in for this presentation today. So for this webinar today.
Very happy to know that. And I hope they would have also found this useful. To me, Deepji, I think this is one area where I love so much. I have so much of passion. So actually, though it was something after a long day of audit committee today, I still enjoyed the session, and I thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed to get my message across to all the young audit professionals.
Thank you very much, Jotin. If you permit, there's just one last question I'll pick your brains on.
Sure.
There's Tulashidhar, who is asking, what is the scope of audit committee? How it helps to department? What are the risk areas to look by audit committee?
Deepji, honestly, I think this question, yes. I don't know from whom it has come, but I think what the audit committee should be looking at is well defined in the Companies Act. It's well defined in the listing regulations. So I think someone should just refer that. As far as what help one can get from audit committee, I mentioned it and I'm repeating, get the right engagement and make your impactful reporting, and you will see wonders happening from the audit committee. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. I think Jotin, you have hit the nail, because the scope, the terms of reference are well defined in the Companies Act and in the listing agreement. So I think that's a set standard principles.
Deepji, it's something like a relay race, if I may give an analogy, though not 100% right. That there is the guy who starts the audit execution, then there are other stakeholders. Somewhere there is a chief internal auditor, there is a CEO, and finally it's the audit committee. But the ultimate end result will depend on all these in the value chain, of internal audit. So each one has to play their role well.
Absolutely. And there's one more question. Compliance related observations are somehow get overlooked at board level, even if significant. So how to deal with it? I think Jotin,
I would be surprised if an audit committee is not taking it seriously, because at least wherever I am on the audit committee, I first ask for the audit committee or internal auditor to tell us where are the areas on compliance which are going wrong. So I think compliance is one area where the liability can come onto the directors. So I would rather, get the auditor to maybe have a session with the chairman of the audit committee and explain what are the provisions if compliance fails, I'm sure then it'll get the right attention.
Compliance is a favorite topic for the audit committee members today. If we go to the any audit committee today, we find that, if there is a compliance issue, then there's a lot of debate on it, because no audit committee member or the audit committee chair of any organization wants any compliance issues or any surprises at all, in any organization. So I think, as Jotin said, it's right to just seek an appointment and meet the audit committee chair. There's a comment again. Manoj Rai, I worked under guidance of Jotin sir. While in Voltas, we use IDEAS Analytics, and till date, we continue to use the same. Thanks, Jotin sir, for your guidance and visibility of data.
Oh, Manoj is one of my colleagues from my earlier organization where I retired. So I'm happy to know that he's carrying on the good work of analytics.
Okay, I think how audit team executes well if there is no auditor independence. I think
independence is a state of mind, actually. In an organization, at least the law has been very good enough to say that the chief internal auditor is independent of the executive management, reports into the audit committee. Now it is up to the internal auditor as well to make sure that, without becoming abrasive or without becoming aggressive, how do you assert your independence? And you have to be very clear. You say sometimes what happens is there is ambiguity in the minds of the internal auditor, and where you should not be talking of independence, you first talk of the independence. And where you should be talking of it or displaying it, you forget to do it. So I think a lot depends. And many of these things, I honestly believe it's a two-way process. I wouldn't really, because I've come up the way. And I'm just not being an internal audit committee chairman. I've been an internal auditor. I've been a CFO. I've seen audit committee proceedings in the boardroom in the ICICI. So I can really say that it's a two-way process. We should not be lamenting and we should not be thinking of what is not there. But we should be really focusing on what are we doing about what is available to us? How good are we leveraging it?
I think I'll just add to that, Jotin, that an internal auditor needs to negotiate his role in the organization.
Correct.
The more value you add, the more independence you get. That's how you win the confidence in the organization, collaborate with your process owners, and just go up the ladder. So it's how you negotiate with the organization to come up. I think that's important, how you deliver. I think we stop today. And if you have any more questions, I think what I would say is, I would request that since we are at the close, Jotin, should we take one more question, if you permit?
If there is a question, I'm okay to take it. And then maybe that could be the last one.
Sure. So we'll take the last question. When internal auditors perform the job to the required standard, as sir is saying, little work is left for external auditors. His reliance on the work of internal audit function becomes relevant. Internal auditor indeed need to embrace the required technologies as is required by the external auditors. Moreover, it has been observed that often internal audit functions are not functional, which is discouraging. Last sentence should be read. It has been observed that internal audit committees are not functional, and this is discouraging. I think this is just a comment, so I'll just say, I think we discussed that we need to negotiate. The internal auditor needs to negotiate their role vis-a-vis the organization.
Yeah, more so, Deepji, because I think the law has done it. The regulators, the law has provided that field for us. Now it is for us to play the game.
Absolutely. I think the law has not provided any shelter or shield to a purchase department. They have not provided it to HR department, but I think they have provided to an internal auditor. So I think we should make the best of it.
Absolutely.
So with this, I think if you have any further questions, you can write into us and we'll send it to Jotin, or you can directly write into Jotin, and we'll be very happy to help you with your queries or questions. It has been a very exciting, very, very practical session, and I would like to thank Jotin that after a long day, where he has spent time with the audit committees, he's made time to be with us from 7 to 8 as he promised, and a very practical session, motivating session for the youngsters, for all the professionals. So thank you very much, Jotin, for today's
My pleasure,
session.
my pleasure. And I enjoyed the evening as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And
And
thanks
all
a
the
lot to
best.
all the
All the
participants.
best to all those who have attended.
Thank you very much to all the participants. Thank you once again to you, Jotin. And we look forward to having all the participants for the next session next week, which will be the speaker would be a CFO. So we'll get a CFO's perspective, Anil Gambhir. So from Blue Dart Express, and I think he'll be there with us. So I look forward to all the participants joining in for the next Wednesday on Analytics Wednesday. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks.